while participants who were neither satisfied or unsatisfied were much fewer. Data from the second round with the same participants, but only 10 of the first round, showed some differences in scoring. These scores basically were somewhat elevated. So second round ratings for the first category, which was the very satisfied category, were about 100 points lower than the first round at 330. And then the score for the second category, neither satisfied or unsatisfied, was almost 100 points higher at 250. The score for the third category was almost the same as the first round at 410. Go back. So the first category would have been, okay, so for the first category was more of the elementary, the second category was middle school, and the third category was high school, which high school stayed high. The demographics for the second round survey was used to categorize the scores according to grade level taught. Of the 17 first round participants, 10 continued on in the second survey with interviews. 2 of the 7 elementary participants responded, 2 of the 3 middle school participants, and 6 of the 7 high school participants responded. The results of the scores demonstrated that satisfaction did correlate with the grade level a participant worked in. Data from the 2 research questions supports that pertaining to inclusion and collaboration, teacher satisfaction was lower the higher up the level the teacher works in, and that the lower the level of satisfaction, the more likely a participant wanted to share their thoughts and feelings on the level of support they received from their administrators. So basically, high school teachers wanted people to know they were not satisfied. And then for next steps, elementary level teachers rated administration higher, but as the level of teaching went higher, the ratings went lower. So while administrators may be giving the same amount of support to each grade level and may have the same expectations across the board, new discussion and conversations should be conducted. Discussions about what kind of support is needed, what expectations are fair and unfair when comparing elementary level teachers to middle and high school level teachers, and then what demands are different for each level. So these are things that can be, conversations that can be had now after this study. So I did gain some things through the action-based research. Definitely learned how to be more organized, and my professional learning abilities expanded. I learned that most teachers at the high school and some in the middle school share my same frustrations about special education paperwork and the balancing act of collaborating and progress monitoring, and just feeling like you are a responsible part and play a responsible role in your school. I also learned that for the most part, while special ed teachers in elementary school also become frustrated with paperwork, they feel that they are able to collaborate and progress monitor with some ease, and that their sense of support from district personnel or any administrative personnel was stronger than those in the higher levels of teaching. Action-based research as a whole can be very significant as long as the researcher is passionate and competent. The results can not only be interesting, but can lead to possible changes or improvements in the education realm. So, part 2, the PLC trust survey. I did this with the math department at my high school. The question I was looking at was, what did the results of the trust survey show to the math department PLC at Todd County Central High School? So we have 6 teachers. One was in her 37th year, one is in his 17th year, and then the rest of us fell with 7 years or less. And then 2 of the 6 of us are special ed collaborating teachers. So my method, I used the trust survey that we used from our second class, and then 6 members completed the survey. And the survey was most fitting because all teachers in the math department collaborate with one of the special ed teachers at least one period during the day, and trust is a major factor in successfully collaborating. So here's the instrument. You can't really see it that well, but right here it's disagree, neutral, and agree. That was one rating column that you had to fill out when you answered these. And then this was important, or very important, somewhat important, and not important. And so they had 2 different ratings for each question. And then copies were sent via email to each participant, and then each participant had a week to fill it out, and then they returned the surveys back, either paper or email. If I saw them, we were pretty much out of school at this point, so most of it was through email. The first 16 questions are on different forms and levels of trust. The last question is open-ended, asking for suggestions on improvement for the participant. Trust survey has 2 forms of measurement, like I said before: disagree, neutral, and agree, and then the level of importance: important, somewhat important, not important. So after looking through questions, I categorized the questions into 4 groups for analysis purposes. One was collaboration: how did participants feel that their team worked with each other? Relational: how comfortable do participants feel with one another in different situations? Dependable: what level do participants feel they can depend on or count on their group members? And then confidence: how confident participants in their group members' abilities. So my data analysis, the following slides show the percentages for each category to which participants agreed, felt neutral, and disagreed about the level of which at which their PLC group was meeting each of the questions in the categories, and then percentages were calculated by adding the total number of agree, neutral, and disagree in each category, and then dividing that number by the total number of answers in each category. So for the confident category and collaboration categories, these 3 points go here, these 3 points go with this. So 50% of participants agreed that they were confident in their colleagues' abilities to teach and clearly present ideas and topics. 40% felt neutral about their group members in this category due to not observing them in class and only working with some of the members. And then 10% of participants disagreed and stated that this was due just to one of the members missing a lot of class with no contact beforehand. 72% of questions answered by participants were in agreement that their PLC collaborated well, worked as a team, and had the same goal in mind. And then 28% of questions were answered by participants that were in the neutral zone. Their PLC collaborated well with each other. And then 0% disagreed that their PLC collaborated well. So for the relational and dependable categories, 83% of participants felt comfortable with their group members and opportunities like visiting their room during instruction, during planning, and after school hours. 13% felt neutral about it because as a team they felt like this was just a natural occurrence within any subject department, which is actually a positive toward teamwork and trust. And then 4% felt uncomfortable, but stated it was because they had not had opportunities to work with all members. And then it was 100% of participants felt that they could depend on one another in different circumstances, like when one had to leave early and needed coverage in like some kind of emergency with kids, family, something. And then, or if they were stuck with maybe a particular student or a couple of students and needed just something different for them to do, but was in the same unit or same topic. Okay, so this graph shows the level of importance placed on collective questions in each category. Participants also rated each question on the level of importance each question had pertaining to their PLC's ability to trust one another. And again, I just lumped each of the questions into one of the 4 categories. And again, right here, blue was the most important, red is somewhat important, and yellow was not important. And again, in dependence, it's very important, but 100% felt that they could depend on each other. And so, in summary, the math department PLC, 70% agreed on all questions overall that their PLC worked well as a group and truly trusted and felt confident in their abilities. 26% of questions were answered by participants were rated as feeling neutral about a statement. Statements about not observing each other in classes, not given opportunities to collaborate, or because they actually thought collaboration was just a natural process for any subject PLC. And then 4% of questions answered overall were in the disagree zone. A statement about one member missing a lot of class time was made in answer to this selection. Okay, so the positives, out of the 4 categories, 2 of the categories had answers with only agree or neutral, as in they didn't have any disagree, no one disagreed. The fact that none of the participants chose disagree in collaboration, which is working well together, and dependable, being able to count on each other in a work or personal bind or emergency, needing strong new ideas, etc. Category shows that the PLC is strong and works hard to collaborate with each other and for their students. And 100% of the PLC feels like they can depend on each other. All participants said they could count on each other, including the one that missed a lot. In the second part of the survey, I asked teachers if they could explain their thoughts on this, and they all stated in a similar fashion that they felt very close with their PLC and that they knew if they had to leave or were not able to come up with a way to reach all students, that they could get help from any of their group members at any time. And then the negatives was just the one negative I've mentioned before, and it was the comment that was made on the back of the survey. And she said that she had to disagree, that she felt her colleagues were honest. One of the group members has missed our class together at least once a week, every week this year. They're one of the better teachers they've collaborated with as far as knowing the content and reaching students, but is not honest about why he misses once a week, and seems to always have an excuse. Otherwise, she said the PLC she gave it very high ratings. And she did also state, just between me and her, that he usually had a plan for her, and just her main issue was just he didn't contact her the day of if he wasn't going to be gone. But this was the only comment made on the survey that was about a negative response, but it would make collaborating kind of hard and definitely create a level of distrust between collaborating teachers. I'll say that for special ed teachers, we do end up missing a lot of classes, especially in high school, because we get pulled out for so many other things, but it's normally not once a week. So, next steps. PLC will meet and set up times and dates for the following. Staff observation should be requested to fit into PLC members' schedules so they can observe and learn from each other. And they can even make their own schedule within the PLC, and then we'll just ask permission to do it and work, within our plannings and stuff. And then staff members who answered they were uncomfortable with teachers coming in their room during instruction time will meet with teachers and discuss times of when they can come and observe during the day. Since this person stated that she was uncomfortable with observations, we'll start out with short 10 to 15 minute increment observations. And then also just feedback after each observation. And then possibilities, just things that we could possibly do next. Teacher relationships should be addressed, especially with teachers who collaborate. And then another survey or questionnaire on relationships that is anonymous, but we maybe review the results right there and just go over it. And then maybe the pink elephant in the room will disappear or be resolved. So this survey, it reestablished the notion that my PLC trusts and relies on each other because they, for the most part, trust each other. As far as the next steps, I did agree with most of them. However, I'm not sure about how the collaborating teacher's response will go, talking about the one that misses. And although I'm interested to see the reactions that may take place once an anonymous survey is presented and then scored. And then my colleagues were very honest in answering this survey, as they are usually very honest in general with me. The math department as a whole is very strong. The testing scores are usually in the top 20% of schools, and students have been giving credit to members of the math department for their post-high school successes for several years. So, thank you.